this ain't game click, this a black oasis, a place that came with all black residents, school board president, look like the students, so the policy ain't prejudice. We didn't have to settle with shade throwing haters, those same folk that hate us, those same folk that hang us. Granny said southern black folks had it hard. Once her daddy was free, he was off of one job, sharecropping. Same thing as a denture servant, plus you had to pay the boss man to use the tools you work with. Occupation most had after emancipation, for rent and their food ex-master they were paying. That's the cycle of death, just like the cycle today. Cause you work to your death, the deed ain't in your name. And there's little black wealth, cause we making it rain. Pouring money into companies that won't do the same. We need a black Wall Street. Black Wall Street. There's money that is circulating. Black Wall Street. Black, so we can have Wall Street. Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street. Let's build a black Wall Street. Black Wall Street. Put your money where your mouth is, put it where your house is. Buy all black everything, even outfits. Let me break it down. You have $1 and you take it down the block to the shop owned by Mr. Johnson, and you cop a black-owned, black-made soda pop. Mr. Johnson says, thanks for your business, thanks a lot. And you like it, so you tell all your friends to go and buy it. Mr. Johnson business boom, so now he needs a sidekick. He hires your best friend's big brother Keith. Now Keith's got a job, so he's staying off them streets. Keith grows up to be police, serve the hood he grows up in. His partner said that kid's a threat. He said that's my brother's friend. Keith's bank is black, Mr. Johnson's is too. That same black bank donates to your school. Shoot, that black-owned soda company does too. Exactly what Black Wall Street did. Imagine every person in your hood, money stacking, wealth accumulating, economic trapping. Rio B, what happened? Do you hear those bombs falling from the sky? Bang, 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 bang. Buildings burning down, people dying left and right. Bang, bang. But this ain't Iraq, this is Black Wall Street. We're black-owned buildings to the KKK came to kill them. I'm talking black hospitals, black banks, black schools, black pharmacy, black judge, blacks made the rules. Black-owned businesses and black-owned planes to the KKK, burn it down out of hate.
I'm black ambition. I'm always whispering. They keep telling me I will not, but my will won't listen.
You want to be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
Black man, with everything on his back end. It's family and passion. If the doors ain't cracking, you gotta let go. If you wanna fly, take the lead. You gotta risk it all. But there'll be lots of things you'll never see.
You wanna be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
Cause you never know what's in store, Mr. Entrepreneur. In this position with no choice, system in prison, young black boys distract with white noise. The brainwash become hype boys.
You wanna be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
Dying late, young supposed to make it off Section 8. Robbing Peter just to pay ball. Prepare to risk everything. You need to let go. If you wanna fly, take the lead. You gotta risk it all. But there'll be lots of things you'll never see.
You wanna be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
And it's the color of your face. There will be no sunny days. If black went away. Black man, 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 black man.
You wanna be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
Black man, 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 black man.
You wanna be let out of here, you're welcome to go.
Black man, 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 black man.
Black Twitter was that when jackets paid do you for everyone. Gucci support two Fubu's. Sipping Cripper Cola, consumer and a owner. Till we all vertically integrated from the flow up. You say power, sip ace till I throw up like gang signs. Sip I bang mines for both ya. Serial entrepreneur, we on our own. Stop sitting around waiting for folks to throw you a bone. If you can't buy the building, at least stock the shelf. Then keep on stacking till you stocking for yourself. See everything you place after black. It's too small a term to completely describe the act. Black nation, black builder, black entrepreneur. You in the presence, black excellence, and I'm on the board, Lord.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Adeline. I'm Judge Page's assistant. I just wanted to make sure his sound was working. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. His Honor should be here momentarily.
Want me to get started, everyone?
Yep, you're good to go, Terrence.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the second week virtual event in Montgomery County's month-long Black History celebration. My name is Terrence Barnes, and I'm a senior business analyst with Montgomery County, and I will also be your host for this afternoon's event. The national theme for Black History Month this year is African Americans in Labor. However, this week's event will be focused around financial literacy and wealth building. I hope you will also join us next week for our Black Women in Leadership discussion and for our in-person celebration on February 26th at the DeKalb Service Center. I'll remind you about that again at the end of the program. Just as a couple of housekeeping measures, I want to ask that all participants put whatever questions they have for panelists in the chat. We will reserve time at the end for the panelists to respond. I ask that the panelists mute themselves when not responding to a question so that we can limit the background noise while others are answering. We have allotted about 10 minutes for responses per question. So I would ask the panelists to just kind of keep their answers succinct and within this time frame so that all panelists will have a chance to answer. I would like to start the program with welcoming remarks from one of the county's Deputy Chief Operations Officers. Is Dr. Tamara Williams on?
Yes, I'm on, Terrence. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Great, great. Thanks, Terrence. It's really nice to see everybody today. Want to thank everyone for supporting Montgomery County's Black History Month celebration and to welcome you to today's event, which, as Terrence mentioned, focuses on the importance of financial literacy and building wealth. We have a panel of experts contributing to the discussion today. I am not one of them. And so I too am looking forward to learning from today's conversation. But one doesn't have to be a financial expert in order to appreciate the value of financial literacy for building wealth. For me, Melody Hobson, some of you might have heard of her. She's one of my favorite financial experts, and she's talked about the need for a stronger school curriculum that prepares students for important financial decisions. And I'm not sure if we can do it today, but by a show of hands or a thumbs up in your Zoom square, how many of you went to a grade school or a high school that offered home ec? A lot of people. Okay. So, and by a show of hands or a thumbs up on your Zoom, how many had a home ec class that actually taught you about the subjects of investing, how to make decisions on a 401k, taxes, real estate, and business ownership basics? No hands. No one. So not surprising. Many of our schools don't teach financial literacy. You can sew. That's great. Well, I mean, if you had the financial literacy, then you could parlay that into owning a tailor shop, I suppose. Many of our schools don't teach the financial literacy in a way that helps students to actually prepare them to build wealth, even though we know that those who are more financially literate are also more likely to do things like plan and save for retirement, to have non-retirement savings, to better manage their debt, and also to be financially resilient. And these are things that anyone could benefit from, but it's particularly important for Black and Brown communities where we see things like wage gaps, disparities, and underrepresentation in executive level jobs or roles, as well as intergenerational poverty. For African Americans and others, financial knowledge is power. It's the power to make better decisions and to plan not just for your own wealth, but for the wealth of generations after you. So I hope that you all enjoy today's discussion and that you're able to take away something meaningful from today's conversation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Much appreciated. I learned how to balance a checkbook, I think, in my home ec class, and I haven't done it since.
Yeah.
I
learned how to scramble eggs.
Would Lyle like to welcome Reverend Crystal Weatherspoon to provide us with an invocation. Reverend?
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. First, let me say thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Lord, we come to you today, dear Heavenly Father, thanking you, Lord, for watching over us, from keeping us, dear Heavenly Father, as we slept and as we rose this morning. Lord, we pray right now for this literacy class and what you're going to give us today, God. We ask, Lord, that you would open up our hearts to receive it, Lord, and open up our minds, God, that we will learn, God, and that, Lord, those of us as African Americans, Lord, will begin to build our wealth. God, will begin to pour into our communities and pour into those, dear Heavenly Father, that we can be a blessing to our communities, that we will build them up. Lord, I pray right now, dear Heavenly Father, for those who organized this. I pray, God, a blessing over their lives as well, as they saw the need, dear Heavenly Father, as you provided it. So bless them. I pray right now for the panelists today, God, that you would give them clarity of thought and articulation of speech, dear Heavenly Father. Lord, that it will come out and that it would flow, God, that it would be received by those that hear. Lord, we thank you for this, God. This is a blessing for all of us, dear Heavenly Father. And Lord, let it not only just stop here, but once it gets on Facebook and everywhere else, God, that people will run to it looking for wealth, looking for knowledge, looking to see how they can lift themselves up and be a blessing to everyone else that touches it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I would now like to ask the Honorable Judge Garrett Page to please perform for us the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Your Honor.
Thank you for having me in this august occasion, and lend me your ears. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring what the harmonies of liberty. Let us rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn and died, yet with a steady beat have our weary feet come to the place from which our fathers side. We have come over a way that our tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our tired tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forgive thee. Shadows beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. Thank you so much, Judge Page. And always wonderful to hear your soulful voice. Always wonderful to hear you sing. Thank you. I would like to now welcome Commissioner DeBello, who will provide us with a greeting and some opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I'm one of the three Montgomery County Commissioners, Tom DeBello. I came onto the board last year with Commissioner Weiner and Commissioner McGeesha. Unbelievably, it's been a fast year. This is actually my second year participating in Black History Month at the county level. Last year, I thought they did an incredible job. The staff that was involved in all the planning, and this year, they not only did as good, but has raised the bar as far as this year's all the things that have been planned. So I want to thank the whole committee for organizing such a terrific series of events and also inviting me to participate today. I also want to take a moment and again thank Judge Page for sharing his voice with us today and performing that wonderful rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing." He just does an incredible job. You sung during the Christmas choir this year, and I just always enjoy hearing you sing. It really does set the tone for this important conversation today. Today's discussion focused on wealth and financial literacy. Financial knowledge is a key component to achieving economic stability. And although in home ec when I was in high school, we didn't learn anything about balancing checkbooks or any of the things that Tamara mentioned, we did learn about making eggs and sewing and stuff like that. But I do believe it is so important that the school districts, and I was on the school board for 12 years and I've talked about this, there should be more classes that are geared towards providing at least a foundation for those skills that are needed, from understanding credit cards, understanding checkbooks, loans, all of that stuff, because it's very foreign to all our students when they come out of high school or college and come into the real world, and they're hit with all of these what I call very adult subjects. So I think it is so important for us to provide that foundation starting in high school. A conversation like these do provide valuable insights into how financial education and community investment can lead to successful outcomes and long-term prosperity. As mentioned, we have an outstanding panel of experts who will take deeper dive into these topics this afternoon. And I know everyone here today is very interested in learning and finding out solutions together. So I want to thank all of you for taking some time today to seek out these opportunities for growth and understanding. And I also want to thank all, I think I would also want to say thank everyone for this valuable discussion that we could apply in our lives and our communities. And I look forward to hearing the presentations and also hearing, the questions in that as well. And I just want to close with, because it really hasn't been on the news much this past week, but yes, the Eagles did win the Super Bowl. I don't know if everyone was aware of that or not, but we are looking forward to it. And I jest a little bit, but we are excited about our Eagles winning on Sunday, and I know the parade is planned for Friday. So anybody going down on Friday, I hope you have a very enjoyable experience and safe experience. And I think the weather's going to hold out nice for us, so it's going to be a fun day. So again, thank you for inviting me here today and being able to participate in this very important topic.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We are glad to have you here and be a part of this. Thank you for your remarks. And go Birds. Hopefully, everybody on the call, hopefully, is an Eagles fan. We're now getting ready to get into the meat of our program, which I'm very excited about, because I'm all about hearing how to build wealth and generational wealth and just build wealth for myself. So I'm interested to hear what these experts have to say. We have three panelists that are here to discuss, help us discuss this topic. Kim Ramsey, Dr. Tangi James Boone, and Che Willis. I will allow them all to introduce themselves in just a second. I just want to remind the panelists to please keep your introductions and responses within the time frame. I think we're going to allow you about 3-4 minutes here, just to allow other panelists to have the ability to speak. And please remain on mute when not responding to a question. And now I will ask each panelist to provide them a brief introduction of themselves. We will start with Ms. Ramsey.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Terrence, and thank you, Commissioner DeBello. It's good to see you again. Welcome to everybody. I'm Kim Ramsey, and I am the CEO of Rick and Kim LLC, Go Ground Express, and also the Norristown Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a veteran, an entrepreneur, and a community advocate with a deep passion for economic empowerment. I started my journey first as in international economics at Georgetown University, and I was also an ROTC, so I went over and became an Army captain. After that, I got my MBA. And then as I transitioned from the Army into corporate America, I held jobs in HR, so I got my MBA, and also became a mother of 3 girls. Along my journey of working in corporate America, I realized there was another opportunity in being an entrepreneur. I started out as owning a Goddard School in Skipback, the first one there. But as I began to develop that, I realized there were not children who looked like my own children in this child care center. Therefore, I came into Philadelphia actually initially, but I couldn't find anything, and I came into Norristown. And 14 years ago, I built this school. It's called the Willow School, and I sold it a year ago. But what I realized is that there wasn't a forum for us to get together as business owners, education, and community leaders. So I started the chamber in 2017. So through my journey, and I'm glad we're talking about this topic about what building wealth. There's many ways, many avenues to do it, but as I think Chase said at the beginning, we don't talk about it enough. We don't have enough forum, and today definitely not going to be enough time, but it's a great start. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Dr. Tangi Boone. Dr. Boone.
Okay, sorry about that. Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Tangi James Boone, and I am a native of Norristown. I was born and raised in Norristown before leaving to go to college at Penn State, and then returned back to the area. I am an executive coach, and I deal with everything from executive coaching to life transition as leadership coaching. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a professor at Eastern University in their business and leadership department. I love this idea of education. I love learning, and I think that it's really important for people to understand that knowledge is power. I am a mother of 3 daughters who are grown, and I'm currently an avid football fan, as with the Eagles and Penn State. And it is truly, truly a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Last but not least, Mr. Willis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Che Willis. I am the owner of Wealth as a Journey, where we teach financial literacy, but specifically about budgeting. I believe that in order for you to build wealth, you need to know where your money's going. And I believe also if you reduce your expenses, by default, you'll have more money to invest if that's what you choose to do. And going through this journey of paying our house off last year and buying things with cash, I realized that that's not the norm for a lot of people who look like me. So as a result of that, I went on a journey to start educating people that, hey, if I could do it, and I'm not the smartest guy out there, but if I can do it, you can do it. And let me show you exactly how I did it. I have a podcast called Wealth is a Journey podcast on YouTube and all streaming platforms, where I just talk about different trials and tribulations that my wife and I have gone through. My wife of it'll be 20 years in August, and different trials and tribulations that we've gone through on our wealth building journey, and also how we're trying to teach our son how to build wealth as well at 13 years old. And so educating him, because we know that it's not going to be taught in school, but he's going to get all the information that I have. So when he gets out and he's 18 or 21, when he gets into the corporate world or owns his own business, he's going to know exactly what to do with his money immediately. So thank you again for having me, and I look forward to the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Willis. So I will go ahead and I will ask the first question. As a matter of fact, we're going to go last first. So Mr. Willis, would you please provide us your answer to this? Why do you think that it has been historically, and why is it currently so hard for African Americans to build wealth?
I believe that it's because we don't talk about it. I think historically we didn't really have a lot of money. And I believe that as we got older and older and, generations came, that we were trying to figure our money out. And I don't believe that we taught our kids. So therefore, when our kids got older, then they were trying to figure it out just like their parents did. And I believe that once we start normalizing the conversation of what we don't know, so then we can give at least the kids the tools of what we don't know, then they can hopefully figure out what they need to know to get to where they want to be. And I believe wisdom as well. If we understand that, hey, this is not working, overspending is not working, then hopefully we would understand, hey, we may not want to overspend. And I believe also just passing that information down to our kids would help them to not repeat the patterns and the cycles that we were repeating, in history.
Dr. James Boone.
I want to actually tag team on what Dr. Williams said about education. I believe that every school should teach 2 specific courses. One is a business class and a civics class. And the reason why I say a business class is that I think that this idea of consumerism, or the mindset around consumerism, is what gets us off track, because we don't understand why we spend, why we want to spend, and what are the things that are most important. And I think that comes down to that idea of lack of knowledge. And it's a generational lack of knowledge. And it's not that we're not intelligent, we're just not given access to those things or those knowledge points that some other person who may not be black or brown's friends, family, or uncles taught them about the various mechanisms around financial wealth and financial wellness. It's not just about cash, it's about what are you thinking about, and do you know that there are multiple vehicles, and not every vehicle is meant for everybody, but you can utilize them as foundational stepping stones. So this idea of understanding how businesses work, why do you think that they're marketing certain things to certain communities, getting them caught up in the idea of, you know what, I need to have this brand, this look, this bag, I've got to drive this particular car when I don't even own the property I'm living in. So it's really about knowledge and understanding. And as a coach, I always go to what's the mindset, what's the intention. And once you shift the mindset and you give somebody the vision of what the possibilities are, they're endless.
Ms. Ramsey?
Kind of to bring it all together, I started out in the Army in corporate, and then I began my journey. So kind of as Tanji said, there's multiple ways to get there. There's stepping stones along the way, and it varies as you go through life. I have 3 adult daughters, and I agree with the overarching thing here is that we don't teach our children in any school system about financial wealth and business opportunities and the understanding of what really financial empowerment means. So trying to give some solutions, though, just like we're doing this panel today, because we don't teach it in school, and I have an education, I've had a school, and it may not change anytime soon. I like to figure out what immediate things we can do. And I'm going to always put a shameless plug in here for what the county does and for what the chambers do, particularly in Norristown. This is what we do. We bring people who are experts like this together so we can share information. There's also resources that we as Black people also need to attend. I always go into, and that's kind of why I started the chamber, I always find where the knowledge or the information is, and I don't always wait for it to come to me. So I've gone through a Goldman Sachs program. I didn't start really understanding money, but the Army made me responsible because I was military intelligence. So I had to be a steward of not only my situation, but my soldiers. So from that, I learned more. I actually took a course in accounting, and I tell you, that's why I have a CPA, because no thank you. But at least I have the understanding. So I think it's important for us, although we don't have it in our schools, that we can't depend on everybody else. There are resources out there. The chamber brings it all together, and in Montgomery County, like Terrence's, the commissioner, all of you all bring these resources. It's up to us now to go to them and be a part of it. And I just find that there's not enough of us in these spaces that have the information within chambers, but going to courses, using your Montgomery County Community College, all of these resources we have. I just don't find we as people reach out and be a part of it enough. So I'm really advocating for us to really be a part of these organizations.
Okay, Dr. James Boone, Mr. Willis, do you guys have anything else you want to say on this question or comment on anything Ms. Ramsey said?
I would agree that education is powerful, and when there are opportunities, I guess how we get our information sometimes can be a barrier to understand that, you know, my doctorate is in business administration, but my undergraduate wasn't. And not being afraid to say, you know what, I can sit in that accounting class. I don't have to be that CPA, but I need to understand what's going on. I need to understand particularly, you know, what are these economic systems that are in place that are going against my own best interests. Because I think that we've seen in the past few months that people make decisions without thinking about their own economic well-being because they didn't quite understand it. And how can we push out and even tap on people to get that information out into the communities that need them the most?
Mr. Willis, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I would just say education is huge, and to create solutions, I made available on my website free budgeting tools. So if anybody goes to my website, there's free, doesn't cost you a dime, and there's tutorials on how to use them. You know, if you need. So that would hopefully help push this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrence, could I also add, just as you said, historically, some of the barriers, and it still exists, access to capital is still real, right? This systemic system that we have and gaining it, and having access to it or understanding it. So that's why it's also important to go and advocate and let our politicians hear from us. So it's also important that we also advocate for these policies to be furthered so that they give us more access, and or when we apply, they know who we are, know who you are, and they help push that agenda forward. So I think it's important for us to really understand historically access to capital still is a barrier for our
So here's the second question. Let's spend about 10 minutes talking about this. Do you think that there is a tried or true method to building wealth through investment? Or do you think that there are other skill-based strategies as well? Maybe becoming a business owner, entrepreneur. We have every one of you is an entrepreneur. So just let's talk about that a little bit. Again, let's go back, forward to backwards. So Ms. Ramsey, since you were the last.
I think I kind of said, I think for me, I did it along the way. I was in corporate America first, then I was in Army, corporate America, then I became an entrepreneur, but it didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I think it was the understanding of the various ways to build money, and to not just money, but wealth, and pass it on to my children. The first thing I was told was, understand and make sure you always have a good credit score, right? So even if I was in business, or I was in school, that was one thing my dad told me, that and to pay anything you owe within 30 days. So kind of float cash. So for that understanding, I think it's a good way first to start for investments, because corporations, I was in executive compensation. They do offer great opportunities. I have 3 adult daughters that were in tech and at Google. They offered stock and investment, and we've always talked about that and how she could gain, or they could gain wealth by matching that. So it helped them to be able to buy home, right? So at a young age, at 25. So that is a good way too. But also understanding first, as you said, where are your risk factors in order to invest? Rather you have it through an entrepreneurship way, somebody gives you money, and or you have a career in like technology, because it does generate a little more wealth than say some other professions. So there's a way that too. And then being entrepreneur, definitely you have more control over how you utilize your money and the tax strategies you can have. So there's no one way. I've done 3 of them. I've done all of them, and I think they're important. But you need to understand, as I think Tangi and Che keep saying, you really have to understand that the concepts of not just the tangible things it brings, but also the power and access and options that you have. But there's no one way. I think for me it changed as I matured and as I had families, and the reasons why I did things were different. So, and that's fine too. You don't have to have one way. You can do it in a variety of ways. Right now I'm an entrepreneur, but I find that's now that I don't have children, I could take a little more risk. So I should say adult children. I mean, dependent children. I have children, but dependent children. So I could take a little more risk.
Dr. James Boone.
I'm going to actually take what Kim said and go in a little bit of different direction. There are multiple ways that you can build wealth. So there's wealth through real estate. There's wealth through investing in entrepreneurial opportunities. The easiest ones are like franchises, or starting your own business, or thinking about multiple streams of income, saying that you can have a full-time job and you're going to then have a part-time job to have a strategy around, which kind of leads into our third question is you have to understand a little bit about what is your financial health right now. What's your debt to income ratio? What's your credit score? Where are you leaving money on the table? Like, I'm going to be transparent. I have it. My youngest daughter, she's just 22. She doesn't quite understand the value of starting this 401k. And I'm telling you, they're giving you free money. So you take their free money, you match your money to the top, and then you just let that grow, because over time that will be one avenue, 401k. Or understanding, I was late in life to understand the power of whole life insurance. And whole life insurance is so much easier to get when you're young. It's less costly, and it has a way for you to start creating a bank that is your bank that you borrow from. So there's all these different avenues to building wealth. It's really about understanding what are those possibilities and ultimately connecting with specialists in those areas. There's no harm, no foul. You don't got a lot of money, you don't have to go to a financial planner that says, this is what I look like, help me build a strategy. And when you have a strategy and you understand all the vehicles, then you can put them into play in varying levels, as Kim said, throughout your career, from corporate to entrepreneurship, even into active retirement and or retirement.
Mr. Willis.
Man, y'all are cooking. Oh man, this is good. So I was one of the people who fell victim of not investing in 401k when I first came out of school. I had no idea what a 401k was, which is the reason why I'm teaching my son about everything that I know now, so he doesn't fall victim and lose out on maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars because of him not starting to invest immediately. But what I want to do is I want to take it back to my number one way of building wealth is you have to know where your money's going. And I believe that the way to know where your money's going is by setting up a budget every month and sticking to it every month and getting your spouse on board if you're married. Because that's the way we're doing it. We set a budget every month, and then we reduced our expenses, and then we had more money to invest. And the number one expense that we had was our property, was our house. And so once we knocked that off and paid it off, then we were able to invest at a rapid pace. So also delaying gratification, because you watch social media and you see people doing well, and a lot of those people who are doing well are broke. And so I believe that once we kind of find what our own lane is on how we're going to build wealth, the number one way to start that is to set up a budget and then direct your money on where it needs to go, whether it's in investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, which I do both, investing in a business as well. But if you have the cash to do it, then it just makes it a lot easier. And also, which is another wealth robber, when I talk to people about doing their budgets, is paying minimum payments. When you set up your budget, you can put money in the budget to dump money on more than the minimum payment, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then also having an emergency fund, so you don't have to use credit cards. You can rely on your own money to for emergencies, because a lot of people have emergency funds in their credit card, and they have all the intentions in the world of paying the credit card off until something else happens. And now they're further and further and further in the hole. So having your own bank of money, not to try to make you rich, but just sitting off to the side for emergencies, is a game changer as well. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, and that kind of leads right into our next question, or what are some of the key strategies for individuals to start investing, becoming financially literate, building wealth early on in their careers?
I think financial literacy starts at home. You're going to hear me say this a lot. The budget is huge, because if you don't know, again, you don't know where your money is going, how can you build wealth if your money's going everywhere? So setting up a budget helps you to gain control of your money and tell it exactly where to go before the month starts. When the money starts coming in, you start divvying it out to where you said it was supposed to go before the money came in. So once you do that, I feel like that's the key strategy. And then once you figure out what your investment strategy is, whether it's, again, real estate, stock market, things of that nature, then you can direct that money on where it needs to go. And I feel like that's the number one strategy. If you can't do that first, then you being an entrepreneur, if you're bad with money management at home, you're not just going to automatically be a good money manager as an entrepreneur, making millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands or even thousands of dollars. If you're not a good steward at home, it's not going to translate well in business. So thank you.
Yes, Brand.
I'll go back to that's kind of what when I started out that the Army taught. If you don't understand and can't manage your own finances, then you're not going to be good anywhere else. Even if you don't have if you don't have a business or a small business. But I think it also starts with my parents didn't teach me how to do it, so I had to learn myself. I didn't learn it at Georgetown. I didn't learn it in the Army. So one book that I found, and it's controversy, but the one book that I found, so I would have a solid understanding of kind of what Che was saying, because even if I said I have money, what do I do? There's what kind of insurance? Am I a risk adverse, or what kind of stocks, bonds? So that was complicated. But the book I read that really changed everything for me when I was in the Army was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it explains the quadrants and the thinking and the philosophy behind things. And then I could take one step at a time to understand this concept, understand that concept. And then when I had children, again, 31, 27, and 25 now, when they were little, I helped them establish a budget. People have, the concept of allowance, but really understand what allowance means. And gave them help when they were in college. I gave them their first credit card and helped them get it so that they would understand how to manage that credit card. Well, actually in high school before they went off, so they could understand, and particularly now because they don't hold money, they don't understand. They think it comes in and out, and so just you have to understand it first and to build everything else. Because again, I didn't understand that, and I kind of fell into being an entrepreneur. But when I was a better steward of our money, our homes, as Che was saying, we own a home. I invest in other businesses and stocks and bonds. I have a financial advisor now. Even if I didn't have money, I still had one to educate me, right? And I didn't have to pay him much. So I did that. And then little by little, I was able to, I looked good to a bank that I didn't even know because I was doing these things along the way. So when I went to go get a small business loan, I was able, with a few more tweaks, but I was able to get it. And I think it's just starting to help yourself learn the basics, and then help where you find, just meet people where you are. So then figure out who, again, this group is here again, the chamber is here again, to help you along the way, step by step. But it is a big task. It is.
Dr. James Boone.
We talk about literacy, financial literacy, and I kind of want to lay it out. Like when we talk about actual reading literacy, we start with what? The alphabet. And I think starting with the alphabet is really, again, taking that financial examination of all of the things that we've just identified. Your credit score, what do you have out, expenditures, why do you buy the way that you buy? And then start to figure out, all right, now that I have my alphabet, I can then start to put together words. And these words are, you know what? I've got debt. How do I get rid of my debt? As Che was saying, I can create strategies like snowball strategies of lowering my debt. Or something we don't think about. I know a lot of people who are into Dave Ramsey don't have credit cards. I don't necessarily agree with that. I say use the credit card and make it work for you. So not plugging Costco, but I am plugging Costco for a lot of reasons. I love their Citibank card. Why? Because I will put everything, I mean, everything is on that card in alignment with what my expenses are. And then every month I pay that card off. And then comes February. Yes, it's February now. And what does Costco send me? A check for spending my money. So you can get credit cards to help you in building multiple little pockets of information, or signing up for specific initiatives with your healthcare that says, oh, if I go to the gym, or if I go to this webinar, if I do different things, they send you money. And then look how you can then start to use those monies to pay off other debt. Then you start thinking about the different investment vehicles. I don't say you can't invest if you're in debt. It doesn't make sense. The math don't math. If you are in debt and your interest rate is 20%, you're not going to yield 20% in a stock market and nothing. And I mean, you're not going to do it. So you have to figure out, how do I reduce my debt so that I can then look at these other unique options? I had the benefit of a mother who said, you know, we don't have a lot of money, but what we got is strong credit. She says, you will pay off your credit because your credit is what allows you to open doors. It allows you to get a mortgage payment for 2.225. It allows you to have a credit card for the lowest amount. It allows you to get a car payment that's less so that you're not putting out those specific monies. So figuring out what are the things you can control. We can control our spending, we control our credit. You know, what we buy and what our name is, because that's what my dad used to say. Reverend James used to say, your credit is your name. And so when you look at these little building blocks, you go from the alphabet to words to sentences to you're writing a paragraph and a book of what you envision your financial wellness to be.
Okay, so you actually said something earlier in your response to maybe the second question that leads into our fourth question. I want you to talk a little bit more about this. So why are things like life insurance and short-term, long-term disability insurance, things like that, important for African Americans to utilize?
So this is something that I learned later in life, that we are taught that there's three different types of insurance: term, whole life, universal life. And most of the time, term life is cheaper and you can afford it, you know, but term life, all you're doing is renting the opportunity to die and get paid for dying, right? Whereas in whole life, you're actually putting in money into this life insurance policy that's building cash. Now, I am not an expert. I'm just giving you what I understand it to be. And when you do that, and particularly when you start off, say you have a child that's born, right? When they do all of that actuarial science that determines what the cost of that premium is, because they are a baby, they're brand new, their premiums are low, and you can get $100,000 policy for a brand new baby for maybe $400, $500 a year. And over time, as they grow, they start to gain cash value in that life insurance policy. And what does that mean? They still have their death benefit, but there's this hunk of money that's sitting there that they can say, you know what? I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cash value out of that life insurance policy, make that purchase, and then pay myself back with interest that cost. And so when we understand that this idea of life insurance is a vehicle, just like a 401k is, or 403b is, or if you look at different annuities and other investments, or a Roth IRA, they kind of all balance out. And again, you get to choose what kind of cookies you want to make based on what makes sense with you, to you, based on your risk tolerance and what someone who understands someone in your position might need. So that goes back again to this education piece, because I didn't learn about my children. I probably didn't get them those policies until they were almost like teenagers, because I had them when they were babies. My mom gave it to them, and then I listened. I was like, oh, well, why am I paying all this money? They're babies. Let me, cut that down to cut down on my debt, student loans, and then realize that maybe that wasn't something I needed to pull back on. So life insurance, and just figuring out what vehicles are out there. And the last thing I'm going to say on that is, even in any of your investments, they have to be liquid. You can have your actual emergency fund, which is, they say, is 3 to 6 months, but you also need to have liquid cash, like cash that says, you know what, before I can pull something out or as extra that I can convert almost immediately to cash is important as well.
Look. Thoughts?
Well, I'll add to what you're saying with life insurance too. And again, getting with someone who you really trust and can help you walk it through, because each stage of life requires different types of choices. If you have dependents and not, but all of it, as she said, to start early. And this is some information, again, if you're around other groups or in other organizations, they talk about it a lot, but with other people that don't look like us. And one thing they say when they say a trust fund baby or whatever, because they build it up, as Tangi was saying, when they were babies, and then they borrow against it and take it and give it back. So they borrow against it to go to school, they put it back. They borrow against it to build a business and put it back. And then when they actually pass as adults, then that death benefit goes on to create generational wealth. But we have been taught, particularly as African Americans, because we were cheated out when there were those kind of shady salespeople and told churches, my family's from the South, to buy the insurance for your church, and then they took it. So there's some trust that has to be built up. But there's all types of insurance, and one that people don't take advantage of at work is short-term disability or chronic care, because it will be just something that will happen, and it'll cost you $5 at work through a company to buy it, and you're out for say 6 months or so, and you can't pay your bill. So there's short-term disabilities that we need to think about. Chronic care, whether you're in a company or your own, that you get. And as an entrepreneur, there's also key person insurance that will cover. But all of this is the same kind of instrument that Tangi was saying, that it helps us build wealth, but also protects it too. Because if something should happen to us, it'll still be there, and you won't put the burden on the loved ones that are left, and or if you're short-term disabilities, because at work it only pays you a certain amount, but this will actually help cover your bills or your credit cards or your business or your car. So we don't talk enough about how effectively to use insurance.
And you want to add one other point is where I got some of this from is my first job, I worked at Vanguard. And so a lot of that understanding came from their workshops they have. So a lot of the financial companies here do have like webinars and different things for people to sign up for. And I think, Kim, you hit it. You have to meet with somebody that you trust, that is not going to take advantage of you, and that isn't. I'm always leery about somebody I got to pay before you really actually give me some insight. And then when I trust you, then I will pay you, for that, particularly in that financial space, because they will sometimes take your money and put your money into vehicles that are not going to serve you, but they've already gotten paid and it doesn't matter.
Mr. Willis?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's not a cookie cutter thing as far as the insurance thing goes, and I'm not an insurance expert by any means. But what I will say is just to do your due diligence on what you need for your life specifically. The life insurance piece, as far as like whole life, and that doesn't necessarily work for me based on what I was taught. And I'm gonna say this to say, when you purchase a life insurance policy, whole life or IUL, whatever the case may be, you're not able to receive any of those benefits from what I understand until you pay into it for a certain amount of time. It could be years before you're able to touch that money. Again, fact check me just to make sure. But and those premiums go to the person who sold you the insurance policy. So if something happens to you within that certain period of time before you're able to receive that money, then you've paid into something that you're going to receive no benefit from. Again, look into it, do your due diligence. But I would say that the first thing starts with you taking care of home first, as far as like getting educated in investing on your own, and make sure that whatever vehicle you take is the one that fits what you have going on specifically. So thank you for letting me share.
I want
a point of clarification to your point. There are strategies for different types of insurance. Like Kim said, there's different strategies. The one that, and it all depends on where you are specifically in your life situation, on if you lose life insurance at all, if you're using real estate, if you're using, 401k, stocks, all of that is so customized, just like we are customized. And again, it goes back to that education and getting with people who know the space and making that decision for yourself.
And I just add, the younger and the healthier you are, of course, it's going to be cheaper, but it is where you are, your stage of life. And there are so many more instruments than the basic ones we just talked about, a variety of them that again, I'm not an expert, but I have someone evaluate our situation every year, because it does change, and the reasons and the strategies behind them change. And you don't have to always get 100,000 or 50,000. It's various things. But as a child, as she's saying, what they do is have insurance on, because you have more time. That way, as you were saying, Che, that in 10 years, then you're right, you can take the full thing out. You can't take it in 5 years, but that's why you gave it time, so that you can pay for college and other things, as a long-term investment. But that's one strategy in investing.
It's
So
like you don't have a lot to take out at that given time. And we haven't even talked about tax strategies. Like
right.
what, that's a whole nother
That's
ballgame.
another reason, right, for business that I do. But anyway, that's a
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
other topic.
that's a whole
I
nother.
do want to say, with Kim, you were talking about the short-term disability, and I want to say how much I appreciate it, because I had to have a hip replacement about 3 years ago, and I was out for a period. And without that, I wouldn't have gotten through that period. So short-term disability through your job or whatnot is always a very helpful thing. I want to move on to our last question here, because I want to leave some time for, we have a lot of questions building up in the chat. So as you guys could give some answers. But the final question here, which might answer some of these, is what is the most valuable piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's looking to start making their money work for them? Kim?
I'm gonna say start with Che on that one.
Okay.
Because I really do think that's, you got to understand your budget. You got to understand how much money you have to do anything, right? To buy insurance or whatever. So making sure you understand where your financial health is right now, and then having a plan to do something about it. Because I have helped, my mother didn't know anything about her 401k until she had like 2 years left. And we, rapidly did as much as we could at that time, taking down, looking at your credit cards and seeing where your credit score is, and taking saving monies and delayed gratification. We have to understand that, people, that it looks flashy. And I know, social media is a big thing now that I didn't really have growing up, and that I didn't have to have all those things. What can you just live with, but also enjoy life? Because I'm all about enjoy life too. You don't have to starve yourself. But figuring out what you can, so you can pay one credit card down at a time, then free up your money to do other things. But while that's doing that, get educated. Like I said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a good book strategy for me. I read all of his books, take classes, come to the chamber. We have all of these people, all these resources, particularly in Montgomery County, kind of all in one area. I would definitely be reaching out to Che and Tangi. I know we've talked on many occasions for the chamber to have you all and do these things. But you got to invest in yourself. It's not going to just be given. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. So,
I would. Oh, go ahead. Okay. I mean, I would again agree with Kim and Che. You have to know where your money is. You got to know where all your pieces are. And again, because I come from this space of around mindset, figuring out what is your relationship with money. Because we all have a personal relationship with money. Some of it has been crafted through our childhood. Some of it, it's like we develop as we grow. But figuring out, what does money really mean to you? And then because it's just a resource. It's a piece of paper that we attributed value to. It's just simply paper. So when we think about it, it's like, for me, and I go back to, I'm not a huge like bag person, but I know people are, and people will spend money on bags. They have the money to spend on bags. That's great. But others don't have the money. And it's like, what does that bag mean to you? Like, what is it, that gratification? What is it that it makes you feel? And then when you get clear on that, you can choose, because we all get to choose every day which frame. And people know that I have a bazillion eyeglasses, because I think you can choose your frame every day. That today, right now, it's not about me going out and having the newest Nike sneakers or Jordans or bags. It's about me figuring out where my financial wounds are and getting them healed, so that I can move forward more effectively, making stronger choices for the long run, not just for me, but for my children's children's children.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off of that. Let me just briefly break down what an actual budget is. You know your income, you know your expenses, and within that, you pay down your different expenses, right? And I think a lot of times what our budget used to be, when I'm talking to people, is they know their income, they know their expenses, and then they just blow the rest of the money. So adding in a line item in your budget for spending money for yourself, emergency fund, and debt reduction, as well as whatever the investment vehicle that you want to use, adding in money to that, even if it's an insurance policy, you still have to have money in your budget to pay the premium for the insurance policy to work.
Mhm.
So I think having an idea of where your money's going is going to be the number one way to build wealth. And that's what's going to get you to where you want to go. But you need that first.
So I want to introduce one of our panelists who just arrived on, Mr. Lenny Bazemore. He's adding some things into the chat. I want him to be able to tell you guys what he's adding in. Mr. Bazemore, why don't you give yourself a brief introduction and what you got going on in the chat, please?
Hey, first of all, I apologize for being tardy. Had a major issue at a construction site that I'm finishing up. So what I did share with you is a cash flow statement, basic cash flow statement, and a basic balance sheet statement. You the book that I think is the most direct, succinct foundation to start from is a book called Start Late and Finish Rich. That in that book, you'll see something called a latte factor, right? So after you do the cash flow statement and the balance sheet and you read that book, it's all going to be connected. And the latte factor basically says that the average person spends a lot of money frivolously, right? Convenience stores, things that they shouldn't be necessarily spending money on. And that money could be taken and used to invest with. And that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys.
Okay. I want to thank all of the panelists, actually, because we've gone through our questions. I want to thank all of the panelists for providing the answers that they have. You guys have given out a whole lot of really great information. I want you to all please put your information in the chat so that people can reach out to you if they need your time or resources. But I do want to go through some of these questions that we have in the chat, and I'll open it up for any one of the panelists to answer. The first one I'm looking at said, would you recommend utilizing 401k to pay off all credit cards, which they say is about 5,500, or is it better to use another method?
I'm going to say no, because if you use the 401k, you get taxed on that money, and there's a penalty if you're not of age. So I'm going to say no. The number one method I would say is to set it and put the money in your budget to pay the thing off. And if you need help, please go to my website and book a call if you need help setting up a budget and creating that. And but I would say no, 100% do not do that unless there's a bankruptcy situation going on.
Any other one of the panelists want to jump in?
I would agree. The last thing you ever want to touch is a 401k, particularly if it's a pre-taxed one. Like if it's a Roth IRA that you already paid taxes on, I think it's less of a hit, but you want to stay away from that because that's your long term. And if you can think about, Lenny said it, if I can stop going to Starbucks for 6 months, that right there, is, and maybe I don't need 4 shades of a particular red lipstick, and those little things that really don't matter, and use that. And I always say the snowball effect is what worked for me to get out of debt. And that not all debt is bad. Mortgage debt in some ways works for you because it helps on a tax perspective. You can have like some investment debt if you're getting income because there's some business tax things. But when it comes down to that 401k, if you don't have to touch it unless it's absolutely positively necessary, then don't. And my last thing is student loans. People do not eat peanut butter and jelly for a month. Don't miss a payment on a student loan because they are not, even in bankruptcy, they don't get written off. And secondly, they destroy your credit like nobody's business. And it will take forever to get it back up. And most people think, well, my credit score, a good credit score is like 640 at a minimum. Like if you can get your credit score to 750, 780, 810, 820, there's a whole different world that opens up. It's like flying in first class. I don't know if, I know for me, I didn't fly in first class until about 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, what's the big deal in first class? You know, what's behind that curtain? Until you sit on the other side of that curtain and you're like, all of this is going on and I wasn't even aware of. Oh no, business class is nothing compared to first class. So really opening up those doors around possibilities is what I encourage everyone to do.
Anybody else on that question?
I'm sorry. I wanted to just tap in real quick. I agree wholeheartedly with both of you. In addition to changing out the credit card, see if there's a lower interest rate credit cards periodically to pay down that debt. Never touch that 401k because compound interest is an asset, but compound interest works in both ways. It works with debt and it works with investments. You want to lower your debt as much as possible and increase your investments as much as possible to let compound interest do what it does best. As far as first class, um, I only fly first class for the last 14 years. And I every now and then I'll get a coach ticket, right? It's the same with renting cars. I drive a Bentley SUV, right? When I rent cars, when I go elsewhere, I try to get, a less affordable car just to stay humble and grounded. But with first class, those seats are comfortable. Another thing with credit, I am a wealthy person, and I wanted you guys to know that you have to protect your credit at every level, whether you are um, not not financially doing well or you are a wealthy person. Your credit is always important, but sometimes with rich people, they don't want the debt and they pay it off in cash, and that hurts them because if you don't establish, even if you're rich, if you don't establish new credit periodically, your credit score will drop. So I do hold some debt just to keep my credit score up there and to just stay active. So that's my 2 cents.
Miss Ramsey, were you going to say something on this?
I was a little different. Again, I agree you should not touch your 401k, but access to capital was hard for me when I started my Goddard school, and this is in the probably early 2000s. And so we did tap into ours, but there's also a clause that if you pay it back at a certain time, you won't be penalized, and we put it back. So it was a bridge holdover. So that again is a strategy, but you have to be very savvy and work with people to do that. Particularly for us, there's various ways to do it. I agree with credit card. You have to manage it in a very effective way because I do have, as Lenny said, right, various credit cards and establish it, new ones, business credit cards in order to keep my credit score in the 800s. And when you get there, there is a whole other level of opportunities that are given to you, even how the bank looks at you for lines of credit that you don't need. And then you can get credit and lines of credit when you don't need it. So it is there, it is there, but there are various strategies. You just have to be, you have to understand it and work with people who can help you get there. But I did utilize our 401k. We put it back, and we're doing okay. So.
Yeah, and let me quickly add. Historically, people of color have been disenfranchised when they walk into a bank looking for a loan. So we've had to battle that for forever, right? So it's in our best interest to position ourselves to be credit worthy as much as possible to try to offset the fact that we are people of color.
We have another question here. Where do we start getting on track to reduce expenses, increase savings, and how to invest? They say they want to invest in a WeFunder, but they're not really sure. So what would be your advice on this?
Go ahead, Lenny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I sent over a couple of documents. If we could share those documents, it'd be great. It's a great foundation. And the book, Start Late, Finish Rich, that is a solid book, foundationally speaking, because again, the latte factor is powerful, right? We're spending money as soon as we go fill up our car with gas. They set us up at the checkout, at Target, at the gas station, at the convenience store. These little things, these little items that once we're paying, we see them. Oh, let me get that real quick. That little bit of money, that's investment money. You know what I'm saying? That pack of gum, that the cigarettes, the coffee, the Snickers bar, all that is investment money. And so we need to start at the basics. We need to know where our money is going. We need to know what money we have. We need to know, and it's super scary. It's super scary to fill out that form because it's a reality check. This is where you are. And many of us, we look at that and we're like, oh my God, like I'm not where I thought I should be. Some of us live in denial. But when you fill out that form, it's a stark reminder of where you are. And you can build from there once you get over that fear. And the latte factor is crucial. Stop spending money on things that you don't need that make you unhealthy anyway. And put that money, even if it's $10, $50, put that money towards investments.
And Lenny hit on a really good point regarding, and I said the business class in the very beginning, because you have to understand marketing and consumer behavior. And it's all about a psychology of buying. And when we see those things in those aisles at checkout, they're there for a specific reason because they're impulse buys and they know how we think. Also, subscription services, like how many subscription services do each one of us has? Because sometimes we forget about them because they're not that expensive. And when you sit down and look at what are all my subscription services, I'm only going, and this is an interesting take with me and Costco, because I got to say, Costco is not always my friend when it comes, I go for one thing and come out $350 later, is to use like Instacart. Instacart is only going to buy what you send them there, and it's a minor charge in comparison to what it is that you're currently going to spend in there with all of those different, my impulse buying. So I meant look for strategies to cut down on things that will outweigh. Like I may pay $5, but that's definitely not me spending an extra $200 in that store. So looking for those small things and learning business. What is marketing? What's consumerism? And how do businesses run?
Jump on in here, Mr. Willis.
I agree. And one of the things that is when you say the word budget, people think, oh, I can't spend money. No, you're dictating where your money's going. You dictate if you want to spend $50 at Starbucks, you go right ahead, but just make sure it's in there before the money gets spent. Make sure the money's in there. But once the money's gone, it's gone. You can't spend anymore. But once you do that and you rip the Band-Aid off, and then like Lenny said, like you fill the form out, which is the budget form, in my opinion, you fill that out and then see exactly where you're spending money on a monthly basis. It will disgust you on the things that you're spending money at Wawa, money at Starbucks, money at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A for your kids, all the things. But we need to rip the Band-Aid off to see where our money's going, so then we can make the necessary adjustments to start building wealth. Because we can't build wealth blowing all our money at these different establishments. And also with that, if you build the discipline of telling your money where to go, that spills over into so many other areas in your life. Meaning that if you want to lose weight, hey, I was disciplined and spent in my money, and I reduced my expenses, and now I'm building wealth. Why can't I do it eating over, not eating these certain things and different things of that nature? So I don't want people to get lost on the discipline that it takes to start building wealth. It spills over into different areas of your life as well.
Okay. We have another one, and we'll close it out with this question. So each one of you guys take your time, feel free to answer.
How do you find a professional to help with investments? Do you recommend big name brokers like Fidelity, et cetera? How did you guys find the professionals to help you as you were going through your wealth building journey, if you want to call it that?
Again, shameless plug. I'm going to say I was at events at the chambers, and I have an investor in Scottsdale. I have a business in Scottsdale, and I was at an event, a chamber event there, and then a kind of a business networking thing, and just built a relationship and seeing what they did for other people and hearing from them. So it's being in organizations or coming to things like this and to find them. But then personally, I have to go out and meet and trust this person that they're looking out for my best interest and not just trying to take the commission, and that will be with me throughout the journey, because as Jay said, it's a discipline, and I have to meet with them once a month, once a quarter, once a year for the next strategy, and it changes over time. So I want to make sure that I have that personal relationship, and also have an estate attorney, and because he works with me with all the various things that you need to protect your wealth. He has introduced me with people that he works with, and so it's a team. It's a team of people that I have and have built over time in various places that I've been. So it's not like a one-stop shop that I found somebody, but it's over time.
If I may, I'll try to keep this short. In 2008, my wife Teresa and I were invited to a wealth convention through one of her friends because he knew I liked football. And so we flew out to San Francisco, and we were at this huge convention, and they served really nice lunch. It was a duck breast, and I remember looking around, and Teresa and I were the only people of color in this room. And I was like, wow, that's sad. But then Steve Young, who retired from the San Francisco 49ers, got up on stage and he was pitching us how he transitioned from football to being a wealth advisor. I started paying attention. And when it was over, Teresa and I started talking. That talk led to a conversation about what do we do? And I had a friend named Larry Gilston, who I went to middle school with and I went to high school with. Larry didn't go to an Ivy League school, but he was persistent. He went to Montgomery County Community College, and then he went to Temple. And then he just stayed at it. He stayed at it, and he got a job working with a wealth advisor. And that turned into a better job at another wealth advisor. And finally, he landed at Forbes Family Trust Wealth Advisors. And so we were out one day and we were talking. I was like, yeah, I don't know a thing about wealth advising. He was like, do you mind if I take a look at your books? And so I said, nah, man, you could look at the portfolio, you know. He was like, how about if I invite the president over to your house? And I said, that would be great. So they brought a really nice bottle of wine. Teresa and I sat down in our living room and we had a glass of wine and we talked about our real estate portfolio. We talked about our investment portfolio. Everything added up to about 1.2 million. We were really happy with that number being people of color. We just didn't know that many people of color that were millionaires. So at that point, we're like really proud, right? And so Larry Gilston and Scott said, you know, we don't take anyone, any client who's less than $5 million. We just don't do it. But because you went to middle school and high school with Larry, we're going to take a chance on you. We're going to bring you into the Forbes family. And that helped us exponentially grow our portfolio. Teresa and I, we sat down and we determined that $5 million net worth, if we get there, it'd change our lives. Well, with the help of Forbes, we realized that number was too low. And so what I'm basically trying to say here is knowing people and asking for information is very important. If anyone on this panel or anyone that they know needs to meet somebody in just about every industry, just ask. You know, my wife and I, we pretty much know somebody in pretty much every industry across the country. So
Appreciate that.
yeah, it's our contacts are more than we're more than happy to share what we know. So, you know.
Dr. James Boone, sorry to cut you off there, Mr. Bazemore. I just want to make sure that we continue. We got to end at 1:30. I want to make sure everybody's getting a chance to answer this last question. Dr. James Boone?
Yeah, I will actually tie into both. It's all about relationships. How I actually got to my financial planner was that I established a relationship with a young CPA who was an attorney who I trusted when I launched my consulting firm, and he connected me with a financial planner who then helped us figure out, it wasn't us at that time, helped us figure out where we were and what we wanted to do. And Lenny said it, you got to ask. And there's no harm in asking, like, this is where I am, and help me make a difference. If this is the number, because sometimes like 1.5, 5 million, those are big numbers, but they're doable through a process. They're doable. It takes the process. So ask, and say, well, what financial planner do you use? Oh, this is mine. Interview them. If you don't like them, ask for another one. It can't hurt at all. And the more knowledge that you get, there's YouTube University, there's a ton of things, the more empowered you are. So I say, what's the smallest step anybody can take once they get off of this call? Write it down right now. And that smallest step could be, I'm downloading this form and filling it out, or I'm going to call a friend and ask them about, who's their financial planner. Just one step. Everybody talks about that 1%. One step, 1% every day. It will compound. Just like if you gave me a penny on the 1st, I'd be happy on the 31st. So just take the step, and that's the biggest thing that people are most afraid of, is taking that first step.
And real quick, you do not have to be a millionaire to retire comfortably. That's a misconception. So you just have to get started and let compound interest do what it does. And a wealth advisor or financial advisor is crucial to help you do that. So,
yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of what everybody said, but then I'm going to add a little twist to it. So I would say don't take the first or second person that you meet and hire them as your financial advisor. Make sure that whoever you're working with treats you well, and they're not talking down to you and like I'm the expert and you're the peon or whatever the case may be. Just make sure that whoever you use, they're educating you on what they're doing or what the strategy is, and also educate yourself on what they're doing, because a lot of the things that they're doing, you can potentially do on your own. Now, there are some nuances and things of that nature that go into investing, so you may not know everything, but just educate yourself as you get comfortable talking to them, and continue to talk to them to see exactly what they're doing. So then you may be able to do a lot of the things that that they're doing, but you may be able to do it on your own. So, for instance, I talked to my financial advisor. I have an IRA and then also a 529 for my son, so he's going to go to school for free. And I educated myself on the way she taught how to invest. And I'm like, well, if I'm just sending you the money every month, I can probably do a lot of this on my own. So I started doing it on my own, educating myself, and I saw the gains in my trading account. And so the education that I got from her, I then translated over to doing on my own. But educate yourself and don't just take the first person that you meet with. Just make sure that you guys are comfortable working with each other.
So there's one more question in the chat that I want to ask, and I'm going to ask you after you answer it, just to take 1 minute. I mean, it's a one-word answer, yes or no. But then just take 1 minute to, sum up, to provide your experience, or to, sum up whatever you'd like to say to the people. The question is, do any of you provide these services, these wealth building services, maybe consultant type services? And Mr. Willis, since I know you do.
Yes, I do. Educating people on how to do their finances better is a passion of mine. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years at this point, sometimes for free. But wealth as a journey is all about the journey of building wealth. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but it's a process, and that process starts with knowing where your money's going. So I start with the basics. Knowing where your money's going with setting up a budget. I look over your finances. It's a judgment-free zone. So we're not here to judge you. We're here to see where you are and exactly where you want to go and put a plan together based on where you want to go within your finances. So yes, I do consulting for budgeting, and then I also have a community where we discuss financial wins, areas of opportunity, and strategies to build wealth. We meet once a month on Zoom, and that's on my website as well. So if you guys would like to join, we'd be happy to have you. Our next meeting is on the 23rd.
Can you put that in the chat?
Absolutely.
And you put your information. I want to make sure all the panelists did put their information in the chat earlier, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, spectacular. Miss Ramsey?
I'd say again, people think that building wealth is a solo journey, and it's not. It's about connections, as we talked about, as Lenny said. It's about strategies, as we all talked about, and access to opportunities. So the more that you're asking these questions, how do I get this? How do I get that information? It gives you access to opportunities to build even more wealth. Kind of the story that Lenny told. I think many of us have shared that too. And I've said I'm usually the only person of color and then a woman of color in many of these groups when we're talking about money. So I make it a point to help. And that's why I started the chamber, to help bring this to our community, to bring up into others. So the chamber has a huge amount of resources, and we work with the county so we can connect you. But at the end of the day, it is up to you to make sure that that relationship, that you trust them. We can give recommendations and referrals, but you really have to work with that person and make sure that they're working in your best interest. And not everybody is out to just get your money at the beginning, but you also want to look about how can they help you gain access to other things and other people to keep your network growing. So the chamber's a place to start. We're local here in Norristown and we work with the county. So I'm gonna put that up. I personally have been through this. I've been an entrepreneur for about 35 years. So I'd love to share it as well. If you need some personal assistance, I'd be willing to do that as well.
Thank you, Miss Ramsey. Dr. James Boone, final thoughts?
Yeah, I know a lot about this space through my experiences. I will not say that I'm an expert in any of these areas. However, what I am an expert is in working with people to help them figure out what is their mindset around money, what are their blockers, and helping them coach them to their ultimate best next step and vision. I do have a large network of people that if interested, I could throw them out as individuals who have helped me and helped others that I work with across the country. But I will say I am not an expert. I am not a financial planner.
Mr. Bazemore, we got 60 seconds.
I'm a jack of all trades, master of some. Financial services is not one of them. I'd have to defer to Mr. Willis on that one. But just like the doctor said, the network is there. And I'm happy to share who we know with you guys. So,
well, I want to thank all of the panelists. I want to thank Dr. Tamara Williams for giving the welcome. I would like to thank Reverend Crystal Weatherspoon for the invocation, Judge Page for Lift Every Voice and Sing, Commissioner DeBello for being here and giving his remarks, all the panelists, Ms. Ramsey, Dr. James Boone, Mr. Willis, Mr. Bazemore, thank you very much all. I hope everybody that was watching will come back next Wednesday and watch our Black Women in Leadership, and then follow up with us on the 26th for our live event down at the DeKalb Services Center. All this information will be reiterated again and again. It's on the county's webpage. But once again, thank you all very much. It was a wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.